All right, so let's keep working here. Adding some more charcoal and to get more of this play of chiaroscuro on our surface. Um, so again, it's just kind of a give and take. Add some here, take some off there. Um, but we want to just continue to define um, these edges. And as I'm looking at the subject, trying to distinguish what value is darker than the next value. Is the value that's on the subject, is that darker than the background? Is that darker than what's underneath? And then applying that amount of value to the surface. And we start to get some little detail. I have been faulted with going to details too, maybe a little bit too quickly. But along the edges of this ribbon, there are these little almost kind of seams, and they really define those edges and break those edges up in a nice way. Let's see, in this right here, again, if you can use the long side of the charcoal to get your edges, it just makes it a little bit easier as opposed to using the tip of the charcoal. So as we blend again, I want to keep the value of the paper coming through, so I can take some value out with my kneaded eraser, and it reveals that value underneath. Here we've got a highlight that comes across here. Could be a little brighter. And as I kind of look to see how do your shadows connect to each other? How do your highlights, do they connect to each other? I've got this, that little glow of reflected light right there that's on the surface to bring out that edge maybe a little bit more. And then let's try and define this edge maybe a little bit. And then this over here gets really interesting. Again, there's this beautiful curve where the top meets the bottom, and some things kind of disappear, and we get that bright kind of highlight in there. And more of a shadow coming across, kind of rounding out to meet that. Let's see. I'm kind of holding all my tools in one hand and then coming back to them here. But let's see if we can define that edge back there just a little bit more. And I've got multiple light sources going on, and so I've got multiple edges coming in. Some are more fuzzy, some are sharper than others, but I want to retain that mid-tone of the paper. That can really help me to establish some of those shadows, cast shadows. I think if we bring this out, bring this white all the way up to the edge, that can help to define that. And then this that shadow kind of cuts across there. I can maybe define that just a little bit better too. So, you know, it's not, well, some people, I guess it just depends. Lots of people work in different ways, but for me, it's not completely linear, where I just start at one end and then move my way. Some, you know, I'll come over here and then I'll move back over here. And just try to do the best I can as I'm going along. But every time you put, you know, something new down, it can help to define where to go next. You know, it's going to help you in making your next decision. There's kind of a so, you know, don't be afraid to make mistakes, because it's just going to help you decide in a more clear way where to go next. Let's see. You get some more darks underneath here. It's really dark on the ribbon itself, and then not as dark on that surface. But I want to keep that strong triangular shape, and I'm going to use this unfortunate, I think I've carved into my mat underneath, and so it brought that that sharp edge out. But I'm just gonna use that. I'm just gonna incorporate it like it's all on purpose. Like I meant to do that. Now I'll come up top here. It does get pretty dark under here to define that. So as you keep going, you know, you're just interpreting things a step at a time. You know, as you're starting out, you maybe kind of have this desire, you know, to be able to draw specific things. Oh, please, you know, I want to draw I want to learn how to draw cats. I want to learn how to draw horses. I want to learn how to draw trees. You know, people say that. Can you teach me how to draw a tree, or can you teach me how? Well, they're all different kinds of trees. There's all different kinds, you know, as we saw in that that first video that we watched, beginning of that first module of class. A tree might mean something different to me than it does to you. And so if you can instead think, you know, how do I draw a ribbon? How do I draw a whatever? You know, it's how do I capture light? How do I draw shapes? How do I focus on negative spaces? How do I learn how to see those? You know, and then you can apply that to anything, no matter what your subject is. So that's what we're trying to train you how to do, and what, you know, I keep working on every day as I try to become a better a better artist. So, you just keep kind of working your way through as you apply things, kind of going back and forth between blending and making sharper edges. And we don't want, a solid line that just wraps around everything. We want some parts that are a little bit fuzzy, some parts that are sharp, some that are really dark, some that are very light. And as you start to get that variety in place, that's going to contribute to the interest in your composition and in your drawing. So keep at it. I'll add a little bit more, and we'll come back.